Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline studio. I'm Sybil Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. Now today we're continuing on with cards. I'm just in the process of cleaning my 5x7 gel plate. And I had some iridescent medium on here, so I'm making sure it's nice and clean for the next layer. Probably use the same thing, but I had some violet on there and we're just trying to get it off. And it seems that the baby oil or mineral oil doesn't get the iridescent paint off, so but alcohol or baby wipes will. Okay, so I have a card prepared that I've done on the computer. And you divide it, 5.5, and make sure of your margins. It's going to be a little bit wider on this because you have the margin that the printer needs. So I measure from there to there, and then you can mark it off the same measurement here, and you'll have to trim that last part off later. But in the meantime, the best way to do this is to just fold it in half. Make sure everything's lined up. Just hold it tight. Run your bone folder up. I do it with the writing facing. That way you have a nice cleaner edge. If you look at the edge, you can see it's got a few little waves in it. So then when you do it this way, it gives you a really professional looking edge. There you go. Okay, now we have it facing right. If you're going to do it directly on the gel plate, which in this case we're going to do, then it goes on there like that. Okay, so keep that out of harm's way. I've got a little bit of just wax paper on here as a station to both keep the card clean and or for when you're gluing, you have a gluing area and it doesn't get all over everything. So here's our gel plate. I'm going to probably just taper down. Now, if you're doing your printing right over top of this typewritten area, then you want to make sure it's a layer that is really, really transparent. So we're going to use our matte, super matte medium. And because our image, here's our image, I've just put some silver to make these trees stand out. It's a marbled image. Working with my marbled fabric pieces. And if you didn't see the previous video, I have some of the marbled pieces just these are from a year ago or even further back than that. And there's some of my so-called failures where you have this, the medium cracked after I pulled it from the vat. And it's just sometimes it has to do with temperature and so forth. Here's another one. And you need to do something with it. So making cards is really great. Now here's one where it didn't do that, but I really like it, so we might use that for something. And I have treated it with matte medium so that it's still flexible, but I can cut it as if it were cutting paper. Now, you can also use the SCAC 900 with the medium, and that will help keep it. It's also a heat set fabric painting medium, so good stuff. We have the matte medium here on the plate, and we're going to put some iridescent medium down. Now this is the Liquitex Professional Iridescent Medium. It really is a lovely thing because it makes things glimmery without adding color. You can add color if you want. And I think we just want the paper to be glimmery. We'll see how this first layer goes, and if we need blue in it, we'll do that too. Now you want to keep this really, really thin. One reason is that you don't want wet media on your card, which is made of cardstock, because it will warp it. And so we're just going to now line it up with your right hand edge, because you're probably going to be trimming the other side carefully. You can push it over until it really lines up. Okay, and then you can put another paper on top if you like, and just in case your hands have goodies on them, or you know something isn't quite right. It keeps everything clean. Okay, and we'll see what this first layer looks like. And it's quite glimmery. Very nice. Now if there is some little fuzzles, is what I call them, on there, you can just, they will just come right off with a little bit of a X-Acto knife. Stuff floats around in the air, can't be helped. Now it went right over top of the joyful holiday season, so it's all good. Now we've got to wait for this to dry before we can position our little image here. So on to the next thing. From before, I want to show you what I did. I just cut out little circles and then just added little silver lines. Simple, but people don't expect fabric. I mean, this is a common image, but people don't usually expect a marbled fabric, so that sort of shoots it out of the park. Something different. And it's very glimmery because of the background. I did have to put this under weights because that was maybe a little bit more wet, but that's okay. If you give yourself some time to get everything flattened, it should be good. So I have a little tool, and hopefully this works. Now this fabric could be a little bit stiffer. I'm not sure it will cut properly, but we'll give it a shot. And see if we're okay. So this tool is a circle cutter. Just make sure everything's tight. And it has a little sharp edge, and it has a cutting blade. More meant for paper. We'll give it a little. And keep it in the same spot. And it should cut your circle. Now this is going to take a bit of time. Josh will put a little interlude on, and I'll get this cut. Okay, well, I've cut all my circles. It was fairly easy, and if it got hung up, I just used my X-Acto knife to release it. So it makes nice circles, as you can see. And it even leaves us, you know, with a possible another piece as a stencil. So we might get into that. Okay, so now we position. Where are we going to put? 5 is good. You want to have an odd number. I mean, I could have put 7. You have 2 more or whatever. And we just need to position. And we don't want the centers lined up because you're going to be doing these little string things, right? So, and you can crop off one of them maybe on the bottom here. And you can overlap if you want. You know, just play around with it for a bit to see the best composition. See what you like. Now that's not going to work because the middle strings are all going to be in line, so make sure that's not happening. Now just to make sure of position, just make a little tiny mark that you can erase. Maybe just a tiny overlap. Overlapping is very attractive. And let's see, our string is going to go there. Just over a tiny bit more. Okay, not too bad. Now we just glue this down. Now you could do this sheen collé style where you put it on and then you have your paper, you know, you would have done it all on this when you did this background. And probably in a future we will do that, but not today. We're just in a hurry, doing a quick snippet here. And we're just going to add a little bit of glue to these guys. And this is our gluing section, so you just put it on the back so it's gonna stay in good shape. You don't want it bubbling and coming, you know, off your card. That wouldn't be very nice. So make sure everything works. Okay, so I have a mark for that, right? No, we changed that one. It's up here. Okay. That's good. This one is here. So if you mark it, it goes pretty fast. Okay, the mark is here. I'm actually overlapping the marks so you don't even have to erase them. There we go. And I'm just using my tacky Elmer's glue still. Squeezes out nicely. You know, you don't get a great big blob of glue. That's impossible to deal with. And you can reposition for a little bit. So use uneven numbers for, you know, your little ornaments. In nature, everything usually isn't, you know, like squares and so forth. It's uneven numbers. So it's just a little bit more appealing. Okay. I might reposition this one a little over, just here. And see what I mean about the glue. You can play with it for a bit. There you go. And then use a paper. Use your bone folder. And you could write your caption right there. You can pencil it in and then write it in with like a silver pen or something like that. Now I have the most awful trouble with these things. I hope you can find one that works. Mine tends to blob. It drives me crazy. So we could say happy holidays, right? Okay, and then before my pen does something weird, we'll get it in the silver. then watch it quit on me just when I've got the last letter to do. But I better not say anything. And you can do a little flourish underneath. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then with your ruler, put in your, find the center, mark it. And then keep it straight. And then mark the center of this one. No, that's at an angle. Things hang straight, right? Gravity. And you can do it either in front of or behind. Mark this one. So far, so good. So marking this one here, the center, it'll have to probably overlap this one, which is good. Right over top. Hopefully my silver will behave itself. There we go. And one last one. Make your mark. There. Okay, and the last thing you do is to trim. Back to our little cutter. I have a guillotine cutter as well, but most people have X-Acto knives. I wouldn't recommend scissors for this. And then we're just going to crop that last piece off. And we might have to crop a little bit more, but I think we're fine. 5 by 7. Awesome. And that will fit in our envelope. So there you have it. And my silver pen didn't let me down for a change. Here we are with our last piece. Okay, so I've cropped off that overhang that we didn't print so that we have this is equal to this here. And now we need to find the center of this. So it's probably an awkward measurement. So you take a little strip of paper and you just mark it. Take a half of this. Make it really nice and tight, and then this gives you the half. Mark it. Mark it so you can erase it, top and bottom. Okay, so do the same with this piece. So there's our center point there and there. Now I've marked the difference in height. I'm just going to overlap that line slightly. Right, so now we have everything centered. So this is a fast way of doing it. Now mark the edges just ever so slightly so that when you're putting glue down, you know where it's going to fit. And nobody will know the wiser that you've done that. Anyway, now we glue along the edges. And then just take a little, spread out the glue. I think when you're going to need a bit more. You can be quite generous with the stuff now because this is fabric and it needs to stick solidly and not bubble up anywhere. Okay, and we position it. Now, what you can do, say it's paper, this is fabric, so it's the color all the way through, but you can just touch up the edges with silver, you know, with a stamp pad. It just finishes it off nicely. With fabric, you know, you don't have to worry so much because the color went all the way through. And make sure it fits in that corner nicely. So then it's square. And we can put it down. Whoops. You didn't warn me that it was upside down. Oh, typical. Okay. Kind of wonder. Yeah, too late. Oh, you get so concentrated, you forget about these things. Okay. Bone folder. Well, we have our moments here for sure. Yeah, I can just see it. Did you mean for that to be upside down? Would after you mail it to me? No, I'm so sorry. Anyway, there we have it. Now just crop on the bottom. You can even crop on top if you can't erase that very easily. And we can take all these marks off. The nice thing about kneaded erasers. Yep, comes right off. And the bottom one you're gonna have to trim here anyway, which we can do. Okay, this is where our little square triangle comes in. Make sure, hopefully that side is square. And I don't recommend cutting it like that. Pencil it. Just pencil it. Because you're going to cut into your nice plastic triangle. And then just chop her off. And there you have your card. Now I would probably trim it a little bit more on the top because it seems like the spacing is just a little too much compared to that. Anyway, just a tiny bit of a trim up here I think is all that's left for it. And so there you have it. May you have a joyful holiday season. Thanks so much for joining us here at Shoreline Studio. And take care of yourself, take care of your families, be kind to one another. Bye for now.